Hey everybody, welcome to the lounge. I am Sky Mommy and I am pleased to introduce my guest, Laura. Laura and I have an extensive background. We've known each other since college. We were in ROTC together. And I want to have her talk to us about all sorts of things today. She's a registered dietitian for the Army and she's got an elaborate resume and I'm just excited to get into it with her. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
So Laura and I are just going to just chop it up a little bit and get into the flow of some things. But I remember, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but I remember meeting Laura. I was a junior, senior in college, and she was a year or two behind me. But all I knew about Laura was that she was National Guard, and she was just so squared away. I admired her. I was like, she's the type of woman that I would walk through the gates of hell with. If she said, yo, we're going, I'm right there with her. And I have felt that way about her for the last several years. And she has continued to prove that she's just like this amazing person. And that's what I want to share with you all, is that she continues to improve herself as a woman, as a leader, as a soldier, as a mother, as a wife. And those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But do you want to start with our ROTC experience together, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, those were the days. It seems like it was yesterday, but it was like forever ago.
Absolutely. It was what, 2011?
Yeah.
When I met
years
you?
ago.
Yeah.
That was 13 years ago. Yeah. And that's like really when my Army career started, because I just didn't do ROTC. I enlisted in the National Guard to help me pay for college. So
That's right.
so that's when the first time I put on the uniform and I went to basic training, because I was enlisted. I was a cook.
I forgot that detail, because like you have lived so many lives since then.
I have.
You have so many titles.
I'm on my third MOS.
On your third MOS, on probably your 5th degree. Like, it's just
I'm
incredible.
going, actually, yeah.
Is it 5?
I have 4.
You have 4? Okay, see, she's like just shy of doctor. So yeah, that's, man, what a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my best memory of you. We had this thing called Ranger Challenge in ROTC.
Oh Lord, I forgot those days.
Yeah, right. Where like we take a little bit more training on some of the people who are just go-getters, and it's more of an athletic and mental, and it's just overall challenge to get that extra little tab, little credential to set yourself apart. And it's by no means like a fraternity or anything like that. It was just a, hey, we're gonna put you guys through some physical challenges just to show you a little bit more of what the Army can do. And we didn't have any women on the team that year. So I was like, you know what? I'm my first semester of ROTC. Like, I want to go hard. And I joined. I started training with the guys, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this was back when I was walking my 2 mile and I wasn't quite there yet, but I was like, I have some hard goals. I'm going to go after it. And then I injured myself. And then I think you came in at last second and took over the girl spot on the team and led them to victory. And like, I'll get into the best part of the story, because at the time,
I don't remember the story, so I'm waiting for it.
I don't know if this is true or not, but at the time I was like, okay, this is when you're with your ex-fiance at the time. Later on became just an actual ex, but you guys were just engaged at the time, and he was on that Ranger Challenge team, and apparently he couldn't finish the event or something like that. I heard a rumor that you had taken his ruck, put his ruck on top of your ruck, and continued the challenge.
I did.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm so glad that's true, because when
he like hurt his back or something.
Yeah. When I heard that story, I didn't even fact check it. I was like, she's that girl that would.
I did.
And it was the coolest thing ever, because I was like, first of all, why you with him?
We still ask that today.
Yeah, right. Sorry, bro. But facts to the facts. But it's just so crazy to me. It's like, that just solidified in my mind that, one, you are her. You are that woman, that leader. And from the moment I met you, and then hearing that story, I was like, they won the Ranger Challenge that year. It was incredible. UNC Charlotte. And that's every time I tell somebody about what a woman leader in the Army should be, I always think of you. And I'm like, I have a real life example. It is attainable. I'm telling you, you can do it, and you could do it well, and you could probably do it better than half the boys. And I know you can, but when I'm telling other people, I'm like, it is possible.
Yeah.
And I even tell guys that. I was like, you have girls that can not only meet the standard, but they can exceed them if that's such a phenomenon. And I've seen it, and you are the example of that. So,
well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, everything where I've gotten to at this point in my career, like I said, on my third MOS, however many degrees, it was never the plan.
Different.
Everything
right?
I've had was like, oh, I'm going to go to school and do this, and I'm going to change my job and do this. Like, no, it was just like opportunities presented to me at the time. And honestly, it's all because I asked. Like if
yeah.
I didn't ask
Yeah.
for certain things, like my favorite ask ever, the best job I ever had, not my favorite job, but the coolest job I ever had was being an instructor at the fitness school. And I got that job from a Facebook post.
Yeah, and what was that job like?
That job, I got to travel the world with the Army. Every week or 2 weeks, we would travel. It was in 2018. I was actually finishing up my platoon. I was done with platoon leader time for 2 years. I did company XO time for 18 months, and I was on my way to go to MICCC because I was an intelligence officer. And I was like, literally, like house was being packed, movers were set, deposit was down on the place at Fort Huachuca where I was going, and everything was set. But then I saw on the I was a master fitness trainer already. I was already my battalion master fitness trainer back when we had those. And I saw on the Facebook page that they were looking for instructors to be an instructor at the Army Physical Fitness School. And I remember being a student there like a year prior and was like, man, how cool would it be to work here? I saw that post and they were mainly looking for enlisted instructors. And then I just put a comment on it. I was like, hey, are you looking for any officers? And I got a comment back saying like, yes, sending DM. And I was like, oh, and I did. I got a direct message from a man named Charles Blake. At the time, I didn't know he was Colonel Charles Blake because it was just Facebook and everything. And I did a little interview with him, was talking to him. I was already a master fitness trainer, so he liked that. At the time, in my personal life, I knew I didn't want to continue being an intelligence officer.
Right.
I wanted to explore other options. I had a sociology degree. I was like, I can't do crap with that. Let me go get a different degree in nutrition. I really liked the nutrition realm of things. And so he liked all that, part of my interview and stuff. And he was like, hey, I sent up a message to HRC. I did a by name request for you to come work for me. And literally, since I was at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia, and Fort Jackson was only 80 miles down the road.
That's right.
So I literally just canceled all my plans to move to Huachuca and like just moved myself to, Fort Jackson within 2 weeks.
Dude, that's awesome.
And then I was an instructor there for 2.5 years. So that was pretty cool.
I remember that part of your career and you're just like in a different spot every week and you're just enjoying it because you're teaching people about the holistic aspect of fitness, nutrition, and just overall health as a soldier.
Yeah. And that was the time we were trying to introduce the ACFT.
That's right.
So that was our main goal, was going around teaching the ACFT, the events, how to execute it, how to train for it, collecting data on it. It was an interesting time, It just ended kind of abruptly because in 2020, we all know what happened.
That's right.
And I could no longer do that job because since it evolved around travel, we couldn't travel anymore. So then I had to go back to my ways of intel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. A lot of life events happened in between too, but I do remember you being on that team and you had to field a lot of questions, comments that you really couldn't answer about the development of the ACFT because it was still in the data collection phase. And then COVID put that to a halt, and then you had to like kind of shut down some rumors that was the ACFT going to be a thing or was it not? And yeah, and obviously it is a thing now, but just being the face of it at that time, I know that had to have been challenging. So
it was, and I think it was just challenging because we didn't know either. Right. I think there was a lot of unknowns.
There's still a lot of unknowns regarding ACFT right now. Yeah, and like it's going to continue to go. Like, are we going to go back to like MOS based,
fitness standards and stuff, because that was the original plan. And then we went back on it.
What's your take on it? What do you feel would be best from what you've seen? This is your perspective.
I like the one set standard, but at the same time, I think the MOS standard, I think they got to do a lot more data collection, to be honest. Like, I think they actually got to really put in the time, effort, and money into doing some data collection to see like what is realistic. And then like, what's going to be best for the Army. I think at the end of the day, because there was always talks of like, oh, what if we did 2 PT tests, because that's what the Marine Corps does.
That's right. They have a combat fitness and then they also have a regular one too.
Yeah. So they always wondered like, oh, should we do that? And I'm like, I don't think soldiers don't like taking 1 fitness test. I don't think they want to have to take 2, so. Yeah.
A lot of that goes into that decision making, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of wanted to see your take on it now that we've been a couple years, that they've been trying to integrate it. So,
I'll be honest with you. People will say like, oh, you really got to train for this test. Unlike the APFT, you could wake up on a Tuesday morning and take it, but the ACFT, you really got to train to lead up to it. And I'll tell you right now, I've had a lot of stuff happen to me in my life over the last few years, becoming a mom, postpartum, physical injuries. I had a surgery just last month? Yeah, no. I've had a few surgeries over the last couple of years. So like I've had my own physical limitations and regarding that test, but I don't really lift heavy or anything, and I don't run super fast, but I
Yeah.
can wake up tomorrow and take that test and pass it. So I think it has super easy standards.
Yeah.
Just going into it, I think anyone could really just go into it and pass it.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to max it and get that 600. That's like
Yeah. It is
that's an
challenging.
accomplishment, even the 540.
Yeah.
But
Even so.
you
Yeah.
know, with that whole standard there, with ABCP and stuff, I deal
Oh
with that a
yeah.
lot.
Uh, can you just share with the audience what that means?
ABCP,
Yeah.
the Army Body Composition Program.
Yeah,
So
I know
yeah,
that's changing a lot too, how
yeah.
they're taking composition people. I'm glad you mentioned this because I do have a lot of listeners that are not in the army yet, and
Hmm.
they have the requirement of the ACFT, and they don't know how to train for it, or should they focus on something like that? Should they focus on scores? Because a lot of the common misperception is you need to max it, but in reality, you just need to pass it,
Pass it.
and you are functional in your MOS, per your age and gender. So yeah, I'm glad you said that, and that's coming from you. You've seen every unit in the army, and you've collected data on them based off this. So you heard it here. She's the expert. Um, and yes, the body composition program, that's changing too. It should change. Is it
Yeah.
getting any better? Are we actually collecting accurate measures of people's body composition and fitness? Like,
I can't really speak on that part because I don't know a lot
yeah,
about the research part of it. I mean, they have gone down to, taping the one portion of the body, the
right.
midsection. A lot of people freak out about that, but there's different math calculations for male and females on how to get overall body fat
Hmm.
percentage based off of that one measurement. I think that is better than the old test.
Yeah.
And the research that they have done on that is out there, and they've shown that that is an overall better picture of how we can measure body composition. Because what I always tell people too, people freak out about getting taped. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if who cares if you get taped so long you pass body fat percentage?
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
and for both male and females, it's a pretty high body fat percentage that you have to be in order to be enrolled on the program. And people always freak out that it's like, oh, it's the army doesn't want me to be overweight. They only care about the way I look. And it's like, no, there's a lot that comes with excess body fat. The research
Yeah.
is there. You're at higher risk for hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, all these other comorbidities. And guess what? The Army's paying for your health care.
That's
And so
true.
that's what
They're
the Army
protecting
cares
their
about.
investment.
They don't want to pay for all the healthcare issues that
That's a
come
good point.
along with that. That's why the Army cares and does that's why they tape you. If you are over a certain weight, they tape you. Okay, now you're at a high body fat percentage. Okay, we care because of your health.
Yeah.
We
Long
don't,
term.
it's not that we care about the way you look and if you're not super skinny or whatever. It's all about the bigger picture of
Mhm.
we're paying for your health care, and this is going to cost us millions down the road.
I didn't even think of that, and that's such a simple reasoning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
crazy.
we do have soldiers who have high blood pressure
Yeah.
that are on medications, cardiovascular issues.
Yeah,
We have soldiers who have type 2 diabetes,
that's true.
and you can actually be a type 2 diabetic and still serve. So
That's good to know. I hadn't met anybody.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I didn't give a thought to that. That's a great perspective, and I'm sure people are gonna be a little bit more easy.
I hope so,
Yeah,
because that's
about
really what it
getting
is.
taped. Like,
Because
okay,
when people come into my office, because they have to come see a registered
Yeah.
dietitian, to get their memo, and they have to come see me and get nutrition education. That's what I look at, and that's what I talk to them about.
Yeah.
It's not about like, hey, whatever that number is on the scale, whatever, we're gonna get that down, but this is why we want to get it down.
That's right. That's right. And people forget that. They just think, oh, I'm fat, and then of course, your body image issues come in.
Oh, yes.
Psychologically, it drains you. I know you're leaning right into what you do now. So you went from the small team you worked on out of Fort Jackson, and then you went right back into Intel. What brought you over to the nutrition side of the house and getting your RD?
Yeah, so it all kind of started, like I said, back before I even worked at the fitness school. I did my platoon leader time, I did my XO time as an intelligence officer, and I wasn't enjoying that community anymore. I wasn't enjoying that
Hard.
job.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, what we were doing politically, your unit was very active overseas.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
We were very active during that time from,
Mhm.
2015 to 2018 I was there. So we were
Yeah.
very active, and I was kind of like, this isn't for me as much as I thought it was for me, because
Right.
I remember in college ROTC all I wanted to be was an
It
intelligence
was a
officer.
yeah, it's a pristine job. Like you get these amazing assignments, and you're doing some cool stuff, some secret or even higher level stuff. And you're like, I'm really serving my country now. Like I'm learning some interesting
Yeah.
things behind the scenes that no one else has privy to. I can see the allure and the appeal.
Yeah, it
But
was
with
there.
that, there's a lot of responsibility. I remember that was a hard time going through the reality of what that job entails.
Yeah, they definitely
So,
felt that. And
yeah,
so
all the data collection you had to go through, like, yeah,
I
I
was
can only imagine.
ready to move on, ready to leave that. And so, like I said, at the time I was super into fitness myself and nutrition, and I leaned more towards I want to do nutrition than like be a strength coach or something, right?
Yeah, okay.
And so, at the fitness school, actually, where I worked with a bunch of physical therapists, they let me know that the Army has this program called, it's now called the Master's Program in Nutrition. Had no idea this existed.
Right.
It's where they they mainly take on students that have just graduated college with their bachelor's in nutrition and give them a master's in nutrition to be dietitians in the Army.
Okay.
But they do recruit currently serving active duty service members who meet the qualifications. So I started to go back to school. At the time, you needed a bachelor's in nutrition.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I had to go back and get a second bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, all these degrees I had weren't planned. So
Yeah.
I got a graduate certificate in nutrition from Liberty University. That wasn't anything really big, but it was something to see like, okay, do I really want to do this?
Yeah, I mean,
And my TA paid for it. So.
okay, good. I was just about to ask, like,
Yeah.
all of this was kind of covered through
Yeah,
your
yeah.
benefits, and a lot of people want to hear that.
Yeah.
So.
And then I went to the University of Alabama, had to get a whole second bachelor's degree. And I was a full-time student while active duty. I was doing
Yeah, I
4
do
classes at a
remember
time. Like I was just hammering out classes because I wanted to apply to that program as quick as possible because I wanted to leave Intel as quick as possible. And so I was able to do that. At the time, you know, I was married to my husband, Court, but we didn't have children or anything. And he was in law school. So we were both like doing school,
That's
you know?
right. Yeah, I remember that.
And I finished that up. And then my plan was to stay at the fitness school another year. And then I would know if I got selected for the Army's MPN program. But pandemic came down. HRC called me up. Hey, you can't travel anymore. You got to go to your triple C. You've been avoiding it for too long. You got to go. I got like literally like our triple C is a PCS. And I got a like 3-week notice. I had a PCS to Huachuca.
Geez.
And I had to pack up my bags, go to Huachuca. And then at that time, my husband already had orders to go to Korea. And they were like, hey, your husband's going to Korea and his school and your school ends at the same time. You want to go? And I was like, no.
No. Like,
of course I want to be with
like
him.
but no, like.
And the reason why I was like, man, it's because like I'm really competitive for this program. If
Yeah.
you guys send me over there, you're going to send me right back.
Mm,
And they did.
that's right. I do remember that.
I got to Korea in February of 2021.
Yo.
And April 2021, like 2 months later, I got notified, hey, you're getting picked up for the program. Get ready to leave.
I knew it. You
I was
know?
like, I just got here. And so, but what would have been a 2 or 3 year tour in Korea with my husband ended up being almost 6 months because at the same time, we found out we were having a baby.
That's right.
So they got me back to the States quick enough to have my daughter. And then I finished out my maternity leave and then went immediately into grad school.
That's incredible.
And so
Yeah.
with a 3-month-old, my husband was still stuck in Korea.
Yeah.
So I went through grad school. And
Single momming it up.
Single momming it up, and I got through it. So that program was 2 years. I did a year in San Antonio and then a year at Womack doing my internship. And then after that, I stayed here at Fort Liberty being an H2F dietitian. So my timeline was all over the place. Nothing you can ever like plan that. You can never write it down and be like, this is my 5-year plan. Like
No,
it was all
absolutely
just like circumstantial and like what came to me at the time and stuff that I sought out myself. And so I think that's really what you got to do.
Just keep your head down. Like you said, look for opportunities or just, or respond to them. Don't feel like you shouldn't. Like you said, you reached out on a Facebook post and they DM'd you. And here you are, your whole trajectory of your life changed.
It did. It really did.
It's actually a really cool story.
Yeah. And I got some education out of it too. You know, like you said, like the Army paid for my master's degree through Baylor University.
Yeah.
The University of Alabama was paid for with my GI Bill. So like
that's incredible.
All my school, 4 degrees paid for through the Army. So
yeah. And a lot of people have that question too, because a lot of people just sit on those benefits and they don't really know where to start. So I'm glad you said that because you got your graduate level education all the way up free. Yep. So, because even ROTC, you had a scholarship. So
yeah, I did. I had a 3-year scholarship. So I originally joined through the Guard for TA, but then like halfway through that, they're like, "Hey, we got a scholarship for you if you want it." I was like, "Duh,
broke college kid,
right?
I need help." Yeah, I do remember that. That's awesome. So since you've been here as a dietitian, I know there's very few of you, even though this unit's very big. What's it like treating soldiers now that you're on the other side of it? Now you are a provider. You are the go-to expert.
Yeah, so it's interesting because like I think what helps is that I was in the Army, like normal conventional Army before being a provider. A lot of providers don't have that
Right.
experience.
They go straight from school into a unit, right?
Yeah, they
Oh,
go straight
okay.
from school to being just a provider. Whereas like I was a Joe. I was a cook in the National
Yep.
Guard. You know, I went through basic
You're throwing
training.
2 rucks on your back and you're doing the things at the male standard, if it
Yeah,
so exists,
you know,
like
I had my time as a normal lieutenant, you know, of like
Yeah,
platoon leader, all that stuff. So I got to experience what normal conventional army
that's
looks
right.
like day to day, because it's very different as a provider.
I can only imagine.
And so whenever I have these soldiers sitting in front of me and they're stressed out because like, man, like I'm busy and I'm working at the motor pool every day. And like, then I got PT here and like, I don't have time for lunch for this, that. And they tell me all these things. I truly believe them. And I understand their struggle because it's like, I've been there.
That's right, and I'm glad you have that empathy because a lot of providers are like, "How do you not have time for lunch?" And I'm like, "I'm in air crew. We don't have an opportunity to go to the Army's restaurant cafeteria.
Yeah.
We just don't have a set schedule. So it's they give us an allotment to hopefully make or get our own lunches, and it's like sometimes we just can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just stop the airplane or the helicopter and eat. So a lot of providers forget that they don't even have sympathy in some cases.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you have that experience.
Yeah, so I think I can relate to those soldiers
Yeah.
a lot more and like build that rapport with them. And so that way they just feel more comfortable talking to me.
Yeah.
And they take what I say a little bit better, you know,
That's
like
right.
what I'm telling them. And I can give them real advice as
Yeah.
opposed to like just, oh, well, just make time for lunch or
And like
just
you
eat
could seek
this or
unique
just,
solutions too.
yeah,
That's the cool part.
yeah. And I think I've been able to do that a lot more recently too, which makes me happy when they come back and they tell me like what I've put out is like being well received and helping them.
Good. Do you have any like specific examples? I know you had like an example in mind from just this week alone. Like what's
Man,
it
I've had a
like?
lot.
What's it like treating soldiers? You know, like what are some of those challenges that you're just like, wow, this is crazy. This person's telling me this. How am I going to solve it? Like, what does that look like for you? Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a good example that made my heart happy. So I had a soldier come see me like back in February, right?
yeah,
And just recently came back to see me. So good almost 6 months, right?
Mhm.
And saw me, had a lot of barriers, didn't really want to like listen to me when I told them like, hey, this is how you're gonna, you know, you should lose weight. It's like, you know, I believe they lived off post and stuff like that. So I was able to, you know, give them some nutrition information for calorie recommendations, what to grocery shop, those types of things. And
Mhm.
I always like to tell soldiers, hey, just track your calories for even 3 days. You
Yeah,
know, on one
yeah.
of the apps. I recommend Chronometers. I recommend that app. I say, hey, track for like 3 days just to see if you're under feeling or over feeling and what macronutrients you're taking too much in or too little in.
Mhm.
Give yourself an idea. Do it like blind. And they never want to do it.
No, because it's that accountability, and they don't want to see it. Like,
Yeah,
in
I
your
think
face.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
And I have a version of Chronometer that I use with soldiers as Chronometer Pro, a registered dietitian. I put them under me so they get the pro version for free.
that's awesome.
So all the things they would pay $15.
Let me make an appointment.
All the things they do pay $15 a month for, like it's free under me.
That's cool.
But I could also blind it to where like I only see what they're logging, they don't see. So it's very helpful for patients who have
Oh.
like some disordered eating patterns, right?
That's right. That's right. See,
Um,
you're over here acting as like a psychologist too. Like you're
I-
solving a lot of like triggers and problems for people. So
It bleeds in a little bit, and if they
Yeah.
have some serious problems, I always like recommend like, hey, see behavioral health.
Yeah.
We have those providers there. But this soldier was really not wanting to do that, and then at some point over the last month, she did decide to do it and came back to see me to let me know, hey, I've been doing it the last like 3 weeks, and I've lost 8 pounds.
yeah,
And I'm like,
it's crazy what happens when you measure
Yeah.
and like you start tracking things.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, now we can make structured changes.
Yeah, and that's like
Yeah.
all I want them to do. I don't like it's hard to do it long term, and it can be very tedious and
Yeah.
overwhelming.
I
But
know
I
how
say
that
just
is.
do
I've
it
tracked
for
on and off for years.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
just do it for a few days just to give yourself a little check and like see like
Yeah.
what am I over consuming or what am I under consuming, you know? And then they can be like, wow. Cause like I had a soldier who was like, oh man, I love these Kodiak protein balls, like Kodiak cake protein
Yeah.
balls and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
then like when they actually like ate it and logged it, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much fat was in there. Now I
Yeah.
can't eat anything that's fat today, you know,
Yeah.
because they use peanut butter to make them. And I'm like, yeah, and you're only getting 10 grams of protein out of that. That's not a really good
Yeah, you might as well
protein
just
choice.
scoop it out of the jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. Got to help
That's
that soldier
awesome.
out. But I've also had some like, you know, I had a soldier come see me this week and was enrolled in the program, ABCP, and wondered why they were, you know, in the program. They lived in the barracks, E3, and just only ate out though. And I'm like, how are you only eating out for every single meal?
Yeah, we had a soldier like that too.
You know, like
Yeah.
every single meal. Like Popeyes,
Yeah.
Wendy's, McDonald's, stuff that's not even on base. So I'm like, okay, so you could just drive to another dining
Yeah, you
facility.
actively made this decision.
Yeah. And so like when talking to them about it and like why, they're like, well, I went to the DFAC one time and just didn't really like it. And I was like, okay, that was one
Okay.
time. I ended up breaking down like an estimated how many calories they were consuming per day. It was
Wow.
about 3,000 to 3,500 calories per day.
That's incredible.
And then I broke down how much money they were spending.
Oh yeah, I've done that for a soldier too.
So with that
Yeah.
one, that was eye opening. I think that's what really hit
Yeah.
them because
Yeah.
if you're an E3 living in the barracks and you have a meal card, you're
Yeah.
not making that much.
Mm-mm.
And so I'm like, okay, well, if you eat out all 3 meals, like you're saying, you're spending at least an average of $10 per meal, $30 a day. You're looking at $1,000 to $1,200 a month on fast food alone.
Yep. And that's exactly what the numbers I ran for this one specialist at the command team. As soon as I got to the unit, they were like, hey, this soldier has some money problems. You have a degree in finance. Can you like help him? I was like, absolutely. I'm not going to talk to him as a soldier though. I'm going to talk to him as if like he's like going like a banking client. Like I'm just going to go through and just go through all his finances. He was spending I remember the number, $953 on food. Wow, thousand on food on top of his meal card. So that was on top of the allotment that they got for food. And I was like, $953. He had no other vices, no other things that he spent money on. And I was looking at it, and while he showed me line for line, I was like, okay, we're going to categorize your spending. And I was like, okay, so line for line, tell me what it is, or categorize it to food or dining out, and then the amount, and we'll add it all up. And he did that, and all of it was like $20, $30 at like McDonald's. I was like, are you spending money for your friends to eat too? Like, what's going on with this? Like, I expected like $10 to $12. No. He was just big boy eating. Like,
yeah, that's the other thing. I said $10. I just even averaged it out
Yeah,
$10 meal,
$10.
which is kind of like pushing it.
It is
these
Well,
days with
these
how much
days,
food costs.
Yeah,
you know?
it's probably on the low end right now.
That's on the
but
low end. Yeah, I gave her the low end.
Like at
so-
Taco Bell, you get what, 2 tacos now? Like it's for $10. That's crazy.
Really? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't eat out enough to know,
Yeah, I don't
honestly.
know.
Like it's and you know that's not to say like, oh, I'm too good to eat out. It's just really like
It
it
just
is
doesn't
expensive.
fit your lifestyle.
It doesn't fit
and
my
your budget.
lifestyle, and it's expensive. You know,
Yeah.
because I tell people I'm like, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It hurts when you go to the grocery store these days.
It does. It really does.
It really
Everybody's
does.
fighting for their lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
it's rough. You know, so that's why I try.
And we're in an election year. Like there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So
So like approaching it from those perspectives, you got to be creative because if every soldier walks in and has, you know, I have a lot of soldiers that, you know, get into ABCP or there for just generalized weight loss. If you approach it like that every single time, like, or just one way every single time, you really got to look at it from like, okay, what's going on with you and like why? And then like try to find an angle because that soldier wasn't really talking to me much or really, I could tell that they were just going to leave and not really care what I had to say.
yeah, you just had to be there.
But when I like broke down like, hey, this is how many calories you're probably consuming every day and this is how much money you're spending every day and monthly,
It's eye opening.
it was like,
Yeah.
they were like, whoa.
Because now you have another value to look at.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'll take your meal card.
Yeah.
Like, I want some free food.
Clearly you're not using it.
Right?
You know, like
That's the thing. It's like, you know, I get it. Like some defects aren't that great, but honestly, it's food that you're paying for already.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, you know, and I know there's got to be improvement in dining facilities, and that's a whole nother issue. You
Yeah,
know,
no,
that's a
I
whole nother
believe it.
issue. And I unfortunately I
You
don't
would
have
know.
I don't have control over my dining facility
No.
either. My brigade, we don't have our own dining facility. Another brigade owns it, and even those dietitians don't really have a say
kind of
over
say.
it. So like, because like the H2F dietitians are so new.
Right. So
Like-
there's no regulation that says that they fit in that position.
Because
Yeah.
like dietitians before H2F, there's only a couple, and they worked in the hospital clinic. That was it.
Oh, they were, yeah, in the more
And
clinical
so,
setting.
and so now that they have dietitians at the unit level, the dietitians are trying to, you know,
Yeah.
insert themselves into how they can help the dining facilities because we have to do so much food service. Like those are classes. Like I remember through the University
Yeah.
of Alabama, I took maybe 4 or 5 food service classes alone.
That's
And we have to, even my internship, but there's a whole food service and rotation I have to do and a whole
Yeah.
project I have to do on meal planning. Like we have a lot of training in that.
Yeah.
But then like when we try to insert ourselves to the dining facilities, it's not really well received between the people that like already work there with like the cooks and the food, the warrant officers and stuff like that work there. And then the GS employees that work there too,
Oh,
because
yeah,
you have
it's
a lot
challenge.
of civilians that work in the dining facilities. And so it's hard. It's hard from our point.
Man, I didn't realize like the behind the scenes. It's like you're you're here to help. The Army's trying to move in a really good direction with the holistic concept, and it's like we're really trying to make these soldiers well rounded and healthy and like prime fighters and soldiers, right?
Yeah.
And it's like now you see behind the scenes where it's like we're falling short.
Yeah.
when it comes to a couple of these programs. But overall, do you think we're moving in a direction, in any kind of direction?
I think we
Like,
are moving in
okay.
a direction,
A
you know?
direction.
I think it really are. I think there's just, like a lot of things, plans built in flight,
Yeah.
and so we try to figure out things as we go. Right now, they're trying to roll out H2Fs even faster to units,
Yeah.
which means they're cutting back on resources by
Yeah.
not providing as many contracts for the strength coaches, or not providing as many
Oh, yeah.
just even GS employee positions, or providing less equipment.
Mhm.
And so that's the unfortunate side of things, as they're trying to push this out faster so units can reap the benefits of it.
But they're
They're gonna
limited benefits.
they're gonna cut the resources part of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's on brand though.
Yeah.
It's on brand.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
we've been in it long enough. We're like,
Yeah, like, that's
it
pretty
doesn't
normal.
surprise us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy. And just kind of like looking back on it, it's like I've been a witness to everything that you've done all throughout the years. So I'm so glad you shared this. And it's just crazy. Like, we're sitting here and we're like, man, like, we've gone through a lot.
Yeah, we've seen
we've
a
gone
lot of
through
different
lot.
things.
Yeah, and to think neither one of us really could plan out our exact route, because I remember trying to become a commissioned officer. And
Oh, yeah, I
I'm a warrant
remember.
officer, and then it's just so crazy because it's like our stories, even though we've maintained our friendship, it's like we have not been in the same place at the same time. The only reason I'm here is because I have family here.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey Laura, what you doing? let's get this going. We want to talk this out. But so I'd like to transition into a different topic with you. I know we talked about it a little bit, but I want to highlight some more depth about you being a mother, active duty soldier, officer, leader, wife, all of it. Like, how do you balance it? Are you balancing it out at all? Like, I mean, your kid is healthy and happy, so I think you are balancing it really well to the outside eye. But
I appreciate that.
so, like, what does that look like? Because, like, I mean, you are a dual income household. If you want to talk about that, awesome. But
yeah, I'll explain
yeah.
that, because
Please do.
not only
like,
that, like, my husband's not active duty anymore.
right.
So some people be like, oh, it'd be so much easier if, like, we weren't dual mill. I'm like, I don't know, because
Yeah.
there's times where I wish we were still dual mill.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little bit about that. So, so my husband and I, we were both always military. We met 2015. In 2021, he, due to unforeseen circumstances, was medically retired out of the Army, and he was a JAG. And so he actually had a hard time, believe it or not, as a JAG, transitioning to the civilian sector.
Man, it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm almost scared for us when it's our time.
Right? Yeah, me too.
Like, if he can't do it, or like it's not that he couldn't do it. It's just it was challenging for him, like on every aspect. And I remember
just
him
kind of like
going through
breaking
that.
it into the civilian
Yeah.
law sector, because a lot of lawyers get their job during their first year of law school, and he went to law school through the Army.
So there was no way he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, even though he was at a civilian law school, he went to Vanderbilt. Like,
That's right.
During his summers, like, his civilian peers were doing internships. He
Yeah.
did his internships with the Army.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
so,
right.
because he had a job afterwards, he didn't have to fight and compete to work for a certain law firm.
Right.
And so, he got out of the Army, and it was like he was a non-traditional lawyer looking for a job, because he didn't follow the traditional trajectory of, hey, you worked at this firm during your summer internships, now they hired you.
Right.
So it was different. And he was trying to break in. And also, UCMJ, military justice, military legal, does not transition well to the civilian sector at all.
Mm-mm.
It's a whole nother realm.
Mhm.
So he was really struggling. He did, however, come up on top. He works for one of, like, the biggest law firms in the world now.
That's incredible. I love that.
I'm so happy for him, but that came at a cost, right? Because
Yes.
he got out. Our timeline was so weird. He got out of the military in Korea in June of 22.
Yeah.
I already had orders to leave Texas to come to North Carolina.
Mhm.
So he wasn't going to find a job in North Carolina. Also, we have to deal with the issue of, where is he licensed to practice?
That's right.
You cannot just pick up and move your license to practice law like you can as a doctor, or me as a dietitian even. It's much easier.
Oh, wow.
It's not like that for lawyers. If he wanted to practice here in North Carolina, he would have to take his
the
bar
bar.
exam. So he was barred in Colorado, because that's where we plan to retire one day.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. That was such a
we
short,
had
short idea that you.
It
put
was
on the
a short
board.
idea. We had to pick a
Yeah.
state, and we just like, let's go to Colorado. We didn't think anything, once again, that had happened would happen. So he was able to find a great, job at this law firm up in DC. So it worked out, okay, I'm in North Carolina, you're in DC, it's a 5-hour trek. At first it was a 6-year contract, just to see if they would hire him full time and see if it was a good fit, and it was. So now he's fully employed there and stuff. It's great. But we do still do the distance. So even though he's a civilian, he does not live with me in North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the cost you're talking about.
That's the cost, you know? So, cause he cannot practice law here in North Carolina unless he wanted to take the bar exam. And I'm not married to North Carolina. I don't plan on staying here forever or even for the, another year or so. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to make him go through that, because it's costly to take the bar exam study. And it's only offered once a year, by the way. So that's another issue.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, my husband doesn't live with me, and he's never always like lived with me, right? He came back to the States.
I was gonna say, like, you guys have been like,
we've been all over the place since we've been married for almost 6 years, and we've lived to each other like solid for 6 months, and that was in Korea. And that was it. So we still do distance, even though we're not military, and it's a really hard concept for people to understand, but it works out for our family, and his professional career my career too.
That's right. You both are professionals, and you're both in this season of your life where you have to build your credentials in this realm.
Yeah.
And it's like there is some trade-off here.
Yeah.
If not, one of you guys are going to have to be benched.
Yeah.
And that's not totally fair. So, yeah.
So that's kind of how we've been doing it and how it looks like it's going to continue for a little while.
Yeah.
And where our daughter comes into all that. So like he came home from Korea. I mean, he was home for her birth and he was home for Christmas, her first Christmas, but those were only a couple weeks at a time. He wasn't home with her until she was 9 months old.
That's right.
So like she was 9 months old. And so during that time, because we were dual milled though, I had access, and this is like something huge that I think people don't realize. I had access to on-post daycare.
That's right.
So on-post daycare is different, right? Because the hours work with military.
Oh yeah. They're open earlier, right?
Oh yeah.
A little bit later.
Sometimes like 5 a.m.
Awesome.
Sometimes even like I know Fort Jackson has 24-hour daycares.
That's awesome.
So like they're open earlier, they stay open later. So they have those hours, whereas civilian daycares don't. And they open early, but not super early. And then you got to fight to get into daycare. So like dual military, you're pretty much guaranteed a spot on post.
Oh yeah.
But when you start to go down the line of like, okay, well now I'm married to a civilian. My daughter's been on the wait list for all 8 daycares on Fort Liberty since January of 2022.
Oh gosh, I remember you telling me that.
It is July 2024, girl. She's still on the wait list and I have to renew it every 60 days.
And that sucks because you guys are, even though you're not dual military, you're dual income and your husband doesn't live here. So like, should there be a secondary priority here? Like,
yeah. So like they prioritize single active duty and then dual active duty. And then there's a whole list. Like it goes on for like 13 different categories or something crazy like that. But so I keep her on the wait list only because we do get to participate in the program Childcare Aware, where she does go to a civilian daycare off base. And instead of paying the $1,300 a month that it costs, we pay the on-base rate, which is for our income bracket around $900 a month.
That's a relief.
Yeah, so we get a little cut off there. But the thing is, she has to remain on the wait lists for all 8 daycares on Fort Liberty. So she remains on the wait list because we get that program, Childcare Aware, that her daycare does participate in. So we get that extra few $100s off a month.
And then as soon as she comes off the wait list and gets accepted into one of them, you would just move her?
Yeah, I would just move her. Yeah, but it's very unlikely she would ever move. Right off the wait list. You know, they see us as like, okay, you're just kind of using this for childcare Aware, just stay where you're at. So that's kind of how it works. But the downside for me is, you know, her daycare opens at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Once formation.
Yeah,
6:30 in the morning. So
wait, what's formation? Just
right?
I recently found out what that is.
Yeah, so I get looked at like a piece of shit because
you're not at formation.
I'm not at formation, but I'm like, they're like, where's your husband? Isn't he not in the Army? Why isn't he taking care of her?
It's crazy that they're asking all these questions when in my unit there's no question. It's like, oh, you just can't come to PT, you can't come to formation. Okay, cool. You have a baby, cool. Yeah. No questions asked. That's crazy. They just like they dog you about it. It's
I'm like,
wait a
okay,
second.
I'm waiting for them to tell me that I have to bring her every morning because they went from 1 day formation a week to now 5 days.
Wow.
They're creeping up on 5 days a week, and I'm like, you want me to drag her here and stand here at 6:30? I'm just gonna have to leave. I can't even do PT. I would have to leave to take her to daycare.
Yeah,
and then go back off post to take her.
It's like, meet me in the middle, please.
Yeah. So I haven't been bothered about it too much. I know other people have though, and like for me, I very much stand my ground. I'm like, let's be realistic here. You know, like would you really want me to showing up at formation with her every morning? And just like am I even gonna be on time? You know, she's almost 3. She's not very cooperative in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Like she wakes up, you know, and she's not very like ready to go out the door.
I would say, I think from my perspective, I think a lot of parents would side with your thought process on that.
Yeah, I think most
I
would.
would say me being not a parent, yeah, I feel some type of way about it because I'm like, I'm expected to be here.
I would definitely, I remember being a platoon leader and I felt some type of way
Yeah, 100%.
about service members not coming to formation because of childcare.
Yeah.
But now being a mom, I freaking understand it.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate to say it, but like the ones who come at me are males. I'm just like,
Yeah.
they're not the ones who typically have the sole role of
Mhm.
being the main parent and having to deal with the childcare drop off or deal,
Mhm.
you know, with all the things that come along with like having a child. And even now, like my commander is he's a younger male.
Mhm.
He's like fresh captain in
Mhm.
command, and
He's just trying to do the right
no,
thing.
yeah, like
I get it.
you know, no wife, no children, so doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
So I do get it, like get the right thing, but I'm like, you know, let me sit you down, sir, and let me talk to you
Let's talk
about.
through it. Yeah.
Can I tell you that she's been on the wait list for all 8 daycares on Fort Liberty for 2.5 years? Can I tell you about like my husband's situation and why he doesn't live with me and why he doesn't work in this state?
Yeah.
Can I tell you about how long it takes to even get into a daycare? Not just like the ones on post, but even off post. The
Yeah.
daycare she's at off post, she was on that wait list for over a year.
Yeah. And COVID kind of messed that up for everybody.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
like she was on that wait list for over a year. So you kind of take what you can get. I'm like, sure, would I let me go off and try to find a daycare that opens earlier so I can be here at formation. But
Yeah,
guess
absolutely.
what? I'll get her on the wait list now. Maybe she'll get a spot in a year.
And by the time you're left the unit.
Right. So
Yeah. And
I don't think they really understand that part. It's not just as easy as,
yeah.
oh, why don't you take them to daycare on base?
We've been trying.
Yeah. Or
We've
take
been
them to a
trying.
daycare that opens earlier. Or
We've been trying.
the other thing I dislike is people are like, oh, let me get a nanny, a morning nanny. I did the math of even just paying for a nanny for 3 hours a day,
Like, sir, you got nanny money?
right? 3 hours a day. Okay. If I just
Oh,
needed them
gosh.
in the morning to like get up with her and take her to daycare later so that I can be out the door already to go to PT and go to formation and stuff, it was going to be another $1,200 a month that I'm paying just for the 3 hours a day, 5 days a week at the going rate of $25, $35 an hour for a nanny. Also finding somebody that early in the morning that's reliable
That's trustworthy.
in
like,
Fayetteville.
Yeah. There's a lot of people here in Fayetteville. So I'm amazed every time I come back home because there's just so much more people.
Yeah.
Like, why is there traffic
Yeah.
at a stoplight? Like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
just too many people. When I come home, I visit my grandmother and I don't really venture throughout town, but I'm like, oh, it's so overgrown now.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy how much is built up in the last 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, even where we're at right now.
Yeah, even out here, like there's so many houses and subdivisions that have just popped up.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Yeah, no, I understand like your situation because you've shared this with me over the years and I'm very sympathetic to it. I don't have children, but on the other side of that, now I'm feeling the burn because now I'm expected to be at first formation and I'm like, well, I don't have a kid. Why am I the only girl out here, you know? Like
Yeah, I can see it
And-
from that point. You know,
and it's like, wait a second, you guys are soldiers too, but at the same time, it's like the army, I don't know what the army solution would be. Like to
get rid of formation.
Okay, yeah, hell yeah.
No,
let's-
no, listen to
let's
this. You
explore
want to hear
that.
it?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
I got
explore
you.
it.
I got you. Okay,
Okay.
so I don't understand why we're still doing early first formation. I really don't. So 6:30 in the
I'm
morning.
ready.
Why? Okay, why? Okay, because even be there 15 minutes early, whatever, and the time you wake up to get to formation,
Mhm.
and then the time soldiers
The
are
travel time.
typically released for the day, 1700. That's a 12-hour day. We're
Yep.
already doing almost a 12-hour day.
Yeah, that's minimal duty day. Yeah.
And so you're almost doing a 12-hour day, 5 days a week for these soldiers, right?
Mhm.
And it's like,
And we're not in combat.
at least in our unit too,
Mhm.
Soldiers get there at 6:30 and they supposed to be PTing from 6:30 to 8,
Mm.
an hour and a half of PT.
Yep.
And then from 8 to 9:30
I
is
guess I can't
breakfast and
complain anymore.
is breakfast and hygiene break. Oh, they all leave early though.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
thing. They all leave early, but first report time is 9:30.
9:30. Okay.
Because-
Ours is 9. Okay.
Because they're supposed to PT from 8 or until 8, but they
Yeah.
all still end up leaving at 7:30.
Mm.
They leave, at 7:30, give themselves a 2-hour break almost.
Mhm.
So that's 2 hours in the morning. They get there at 9:30, and then what happens at 11:30?
Lunch
Lunch.
for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. So you get like what, maybe 2 hours of work, and then people really like start something, and like, are they really going to
Gotta go
finish it?
Lunch. Office closed.
And then you come back 1300, and you're there until 1700, so you get 4 hours there. So you're really only getting 6 hours out of that workday,
yeah, out of the 12-hour workday.
from 9:30 to 11:30, from 13 to 17.
Yeah.
So what is the point of us waking up super early to come PT if it's going to take up all this time? And plus, PT plus breakfast time is 3 hours. Why does it need to be 3 hours?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of H2Fs out there
wanted to ask about that.
exploring
Different times.
different times to do PT, doing afternoon
yes.
PT.
I wanted to talk about this.
Yes. I can't tell you exactly like what units or where they're going in this direction and stuff, or who is actually doing this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, what if we showed up to work? What if we all showed up to work at 7 a.m. to work and then like ended at 3 and then
or like
did PT or something somewhere where you get like a solid, not only just like 8 hours of work, but if you're only doing 6 hours of work now anyway,
you're only going to do 6
you don't like to do 6 hours of work, and then just make the duty day 6 hours of work and then 2 hours of PT.
Yeah.
Let's just show up
do it right after lunch and then leave. We explored that before we implemented the morning formation, but we sat down, the NCOs and I sat down with the first sergeant, and we're like, you know what? Here's kind of like our game plan. We're gonna Tuesday, Thursday, we're gonna have like academics in the morning. We're gonna talk about either systems academics for the aircraft or maintenance academics in the aircraft. We're gonna break for lunch. We're gonna PT after lunch, and you could change into civilians, whatever you need to do to PT. And then after PT, instead of showering and staying, you just leave for the day. So you're leaving around 2:33, which people deuce out around that time anyway.
Yeah,
some people do, at least in aviation. But so it's like we explored that option, but that kind of was. We're in an infantry unit, so their first formation is 6:30 as well. So it's like we kind of have to match what the rest of the unit is doing.
Yeah.
We can't just kind of do our own thing, even though H2F supports it. It's like there may be a better time for you to PT throughout the day, and then you get 100% participation because like people like you don't have to worry about daycare. You're already at work.
Yeah.
Then you get 100% participation from everybody that couldn't come at 6:30.
Yeah.
And then now you have more faces. You're actually focused on people getting better at physical training, focusing on their health, because then you're uncovering things that they may be weak at. And then you could say, oh, hey, I can help you with your deadlift, things like that. You're actually running a good clinic instead of just PTing. You're getting 25 minutes worth of a workout, and then you're just kind of hanging around until they tell you to leave.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm seeing now. It's like,
that's still like that. Like most
I'm
soldiers
wasting an hour drive time plus
for
that's a 25-minute workout.
Yeah.
So I still have to go work out after I'm done.
Most soldiers feel that way, right? They don't feel like the unit PT get anything out of unit PT, and they feel like they have to work out all their times, and then they don't have time to work out and reach their goals or whatever they want to do, because of work, because of their personal life or whatever.
Yeah, or even preparing for Army schools. So I'm in the center where Ranger School, Airborne, all of the schools are there, and people want to pursue that. In our unit, they're very supportive of us pursuing those goals. And it's like, wait a second, like at 6:30, I have to do whatever the unit's doing for 25 minutes or the hour of formation. And it's like, wait a second, I need to hit a ruck today. I need to hit a long run. Like, how am I going to accomplish that in first formation if I have to do whatever they're doing?
Yeah.
And I get it. It's like, it's part of the Army. It's part of the tradition. I mean, it's just, is it though? Like
is it time to like move on from tradition?
Yeah.
It made sense like, I don't know, 100 years ago.
When everybody lived on post.
When everyone lived on post.
Yeah, even the officers lived on post.
And there was majority males.
Yes.
You didn't have the huge issue of childcare.
No.
Either.
Because they had built-in childcare providers.
Yeah.
I mean, most
women stayed home too.
Yeah, that was the way of the United States at the time.
Yeah. And so, and one other thing that people always bring up to me when I'm like, oh, let's just change around PT times and stuff like that, or change around work hours and duty hours.
Or even like the first formation 9 o'clock, PT till 10, like
something. You know what I hear? I hear is like, oh, but what about the DFAC times?
Okay.
I'm like, are we not like that big of an organization that we can't change our DFAC times?
And I'm pretty sure you could talk to the DFAC restaurant manager, and you could either get meals to go, or they could set up a field DFAC. Like there's got to be a way.
There's other ways.
There's got to be a way.
Whenever I hear that one, I've seen that one a lot. I've seen a lot on social media, like comments and stuff on this topic. They're like, oh, but what about the DFAC times?
I didn't consider that because all of us are on like.
Because that's right now, like we conform to those hours because that's when the DFAC is open and when we are supposed to allow soldiers to leave.
It just sounds like an easy fix, an easy adjustment.
It does. And, I might be looking at it from a very different perspective, but because I know there's a lot that goes into it, right? Planning the meals, ordering the food. There's a lot that goes into food service, but I think it's not to the point where we can't adjust it.
We adjust it in times that we need to adjust it. So I survived a Category 5 hurricane while I was stationed at Fort Polk, Fort Johnson, Louisiana. And as soon as the aftermath, because we weren't allowed to evacuate as soldiers, we still had to perform our jobs right after the hurricane. We didn't have 2 weeks. We didn't have power. So the DFAC turned into a field DFAC, and they had tents set up. They had all their stuff set up. And what they did was they provided to-go meals, and people and families that were still on post were allowed to come in and utilize it because there was just no power to cook anything else. They had generators out there. They were still cooking. They were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
And I was the liaison for my whole battalion to the general and post commander. And I said, hey, sir, what about our air crews? Because we're running 24/7 ops. We don't have access to a DFAC regularly. We can't just leave the hangar. Is there a way that I can get meals delivered to the battalion for the units the air crews that are on duty? They were like, absolutely. What time do you want to pick them up and how many do you need? So, I mean, it's like in moments like that, we could figure out a solution.
Oh yeah.
So there's got to be a way.
There's got to be a way. And so I really hate that small mindedness. So it seems like some people always try to find a roadblock of like
a roadblock and then stop at it.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, why can't we explore? Like, why can't we actually do it?
We got engineers and sappers. We just blow through it, right? Like,
yeah. And so the small mindedness of like, why can't we just break through traditions? Why can't we just like change it up and be more modern with like where our Army is
and where our
meet us
needs
where
are
we're at? Yeah.
And then of course like the overall health and fitness is changing. Like our body compositions are changing. Like we don't look like the male soldiers that were in the 1950s and 60s, Vietnam era or Korea.
Because there's so much influence from what we eat in our culture and like outside, like all the fast food restaurants that we talked about, and even just like what you're purchasing at the grocery store, it's a lot different.
It's a lot different, and we need to change with it.
Yes.
But like you mentioned previously, a lot of it is just learning as we go. It's more reactionary, and we've got a long way ahead of us.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect system, but
no,
that's why we have providers like you to share insight and let us know that what we're feeling on the grunt side of things or like in our little bubble is actually what you guys are seeing at higher levels.
Yeah.
So that is true. It makes me feel like, okay, I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
Like I'm not tripping. They're seeing it and they can't really affect change. So I'm like, oh, goodness.
I know. It always bothers me whenever I hear soldiers stuck at the motor pool. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know. I can't wrap my head around that. I haven't had that experience, but goodness, I'm looking at us and I'm just like, wow, like a lot of our peers from ROTC are in command positions. You are a provider now. I'm looking at my next promotion and I'm just like, wow, look at us. Like we're getting to this point where we're asking the right questions. We're getting a lot of our roadblocks and we're like, how are we going to affect change? It's like, we're not accepting the status quo anymore. And we're the future leaders of this Army. But a lot of us are getting out. A lot of us are like, hey, I can't work through this if I don't have the support.
Yeah.
And I think that's really disenchanting. And it's kind of given us all a lot to think about. But I am really happy that all of us are now in positions where we can affect a little bit of change at a time.
Yeah.
Like you're affecting lives every day. And then of course, like literally you're affecting someone's like quality of life in the moment and in their future. And if you think about that's a lasting, that's a lasting impact and legacy on someone's life, and the future of their family.
Yeah.
So even though we're kind of disenchanted and disappointed in certain aspects, there are small victories here.
There are. Yeah.
Little small victories
that we hopefully. It'll be interesting to see as like even the next decade. Of leaders, are they going to come through and make significant change, to where we don't do these like formal formations
I don't know what it's
and stuff like that, and just change everything. I have a friend who's in the Space Force actually.
Shit.
Yeah, she was actually Army and God bless her heart, she like applied to go Space Force, forgot she applied. Girl, she forgot she applied.
What?
I love her to death. Forgot she applied. Actually, I already had her refread to get out of the Army submitted.
Okay.
And then I saw that the list, because I was looking for someone else's name on the list for who got picked up for Space Force that year. This was in 2021.
Yeah.
And I saw her name because her name was very specific. And I was like,
bitch.
I hit her up. I was like, hey, girl, congrats. And she was like, what? And I was like, you got picked up for the Space Force? She's like, no, I didn't. She's like, what am I going to do? I'm already like, my refread is approved to get out of the service. And I was like, what are you going to do? She actually stayed in just to go transfer to the Space Force.
Okay.
And so she's in the Space Force now.
What does she do as a job in Space Force?
Acquisitions.
Oh, that's cool.
I can't tell you much more about it, but that's all I know.
But acquisitions is a very broad term, but that's very transferable to a lot of different industries in the civilian world.
Yeah.
So she probably set herself up real nice.
Oh yeah, she was an aerospace engineer.
Then she's
good.
Yeah, she's set.
But getting to my point, they wear I think it's Garmin or Polar watches and to track their fitness.
Awesome.
And so long that they wear that watch and track their fitness, they don't have to take a PT test.
A lot. That's awesome. A lot of civilian agencies do that. So if you use their track wearables,
Hmm.
they actually even give you a discount on your health insurance.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard about that.
because I was civilian for a long time, and they had a couple of those options. I think the Navy has provided certain things like that, like the Aura Ring.
We actually do in my
Yeah,
unit. We're part of a study. I
yeah,
don't have mine on because,
yeah. I think the Navy. One
but
of my friends in the Navy did
but they
that.
gave me a Polar Watch and an Aura Ring.
See, that's incentives. We haven't even touched on incentives.
Yeah.
Like, hey, why don't we make this a little bit better for those that actually do the right thing and maintain their physical
Yeah.
standards? That would be a
I wish
solution.
they would do more of an incentive on it because, like I said, I do wear my Aura Ring. I don't necessarily wear my Polar Watch because I have my Whoop.
Yeah, Whoop's cool.
So I wear that. The Polar Watch is pretty big. I wish they would have gone with a different device that wasn't so big because that's what most soldiers say that were issued it. They're like, it's just so big. It's like,
Yeah.
it's massive. It's not really what I want to wear. They did say, you don't have to wear it all the time. Just wear it when you work out to record your workout and then take it off. But even then, soldiers are like, it gets in my way.
Yeah,
And then they
yeah.
wanted us to
Especially
wear,
if you wear wraps or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, or if you want to wear another device, like
Yeah,
you want to
now
track on
you're
your
doing
Apple
both of
Watch.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Aura Ring, they want us to wear when we sleep at least, just to kind of track sleep because they're like, it's more effective for sleep and a little bit not so much for activity. I would agree
Like
with that.
recovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I wonder if, they would be great if they, like, I bet if they told soldiers, hey, if you wear this Polar Watch all the time, we see you're working out a lot, you don't have to go to formation and do PT.
I think it would probably have positive
You probably
returns.
would see that more.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I think it would.
I think it would be the culture change that we were looking for.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like, and so there's more talks that like they're going to, issue out smart devices for like the whole army. What that
That's
device is going to
cool.
be, I don't know. But there's
Awesome.
talks about it right now. They're just doing some study and research about it, but I can't really tell you what they're doing with it.
Yeah, but you know what? It brings it back to what you said before is like the army would much rather spend a couple $100 on a wearable than thousands and thousands of dollars in your disability claim years down the road.
Yeah, no,
So
it does, right? Because like it also keeps them in check, you
Yeah.
know. And I know like eventually, like myself as a provider and my fellow providers I work with in H2F, both on occupational therapist and physical therapist. At some point, we're supposed to, I think, in a couple of weeks, sit down with the people doing the research study to kind of see a dashboard. So as a provider, I can see trends. I
That's
won't be able to
cool.
see like a specific soldier. Like I
Yeah.
can't, like if it was your
Oh,
name
okay.
or your DoD ID, I couldn't see. Like I couldn't research you up to see. Just like with HIPAA or stuff, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I think maybe eventually at some point get to that, but I know
Yeah.
like we could at least see trends.
That's cool. Like the
As far as
information's
like,
there.
are people actually wearing it? Are they working out? Are they getting enough sleep? Like, what are we
Yeah,
seeing?
because then you could use that in like just data analysis to see if there's any other health issues underlying any trending in the negative way, and you could prevent a lot of that concerns.
I-
That's actually really cool.
I do like it for if I have a soldier who's wearing it that like is part of the study in my unit within my brigade, I can see like they're wearing a watch or they're wearing the ring. I say like, hey, if you want, you can share with me some of the activity that you're doing. Cause like I care more about the physical activity part of it, right? Because nutrition's one thing, but I got to make sure they're working out. And like you wouldn't
Yeah.
believe how many people are not working out
Not even hitting their walk, their hot girl walk.
yeah, for weight loss, like I'm like, you gotta move your body.
Yeah, I mean,
if
it's
you
true.
if you
It's
want to
a
lose
lot.
weight, there's no outsmarting calories in versus calories out.
Yeah,
So
right.
many people like are like, oh, should I do intermittent fasting? Should I do keto? Should I do this
But if
fad
you're
diet?
overeating, you're overeating.
That exactly. Like it doesn't matter to me when you're eating those calories, just like that you're eating the right amount of calories and the right, and that's the other thing. I have a lot of soldiers under eating
Oh,
and trying to, lose weight, and they're just severely restricting themselves to the
Yeah.
point where like their body's like in
holding
shock
on to it.
and they're holding on to it.
I have a bad habit of that when I'm work stressed. So
Yeah.
I can relate because you just get caught up at work and you just don't eat.
Yeah.
And then when you do eat, you're just like, oh, I don't really want to eat. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's just, you're working in the heat. It's just too much. Like I tend to lean that way than the overeating part. But then your body, like you said, goes into shock and you just don't drop that weight.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
I have had so many soldiers in that situation.
Or you can't gain weight either if that's your goal. Like,
Yeah, I actually have quite a bit of soldiers trying to gain weight,
Mhm.
and that are like underweight. Like I'm talking 100-pound soaking wet soldiers,
Wow.
So I do have those soldiers as well that I see.
Mhm.
But yeah, like they're just like, and they leave my office so confused when I calculate, based off their basal metabolic rate and like
Yeah.
their activity factor, how many calories they should be aiming for a day and stuff. And when they leave my office and they're getting told like, hey, I need to eat this many calories, it sounds like a lot. How am I ever going to lose weight? I'm like, trust me. Just like that one soldier that
Yeah.
saw me back in February who didn't trust me. And then she started going off those numbers and then she actually started to lose weight,
Yeah.
because she wasn't restricting herself as much anymore.
And you said in 3 weeks, 8 pounds. That's
Yeah.
good.
Have another friend who who lost weight. She in about 4 months lost 20 pounds.
That's impressive.
4
Yeah, I
months,
did
20
that last
pounds.
summer.
Yeah.
So,
Just by tracking
everything
and being consistent.
and then burning more than you take.
Yeah,
in.
being
That's it.
consistent with her workouts and being
Yeah.
consistent with her nutrition. That's all it really was. And don't get me wrong, like she's like, there's days where I did, went out with the family and ate and enjoyed what I wanted.
Yeah,
you
you
know,
shouldn't restrict your life.
no, you shouldn't restrict your life, but
Yeah.
definitely no, for the most part, being consistent most days.
Yeah, most days. And then just hitting that. If you break it down to smaller goals, like your daily goal versus like, oh, I need to lose all this weight. If you break it down, it's like, okay, well, if I burn 500 extra calories a day, every day this week, I'm already at this deficit as long as I don't change anything about my food.
Yep.
And it's like, it's as simple as that math.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people aren't educated in that. They don't know.
Well, social media is like honestly my biggest, competitor. It
Yeah.
really is. Like most
Yeah.
people want to believe whatever they read on social media and all
they
those
want the
trends.
quick fix.
They want the quick fix, all the trends, all the fad diets, and then
Yeah.
weight loss medication is now approved for service members.
I did want to talk about that.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you've blown my mind on this because it's not regulated. You said it's like a brigade policy. And then I don't know how much you can tell me about it, but it is approved.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah. So it came out last year, TRICARE finally, they approved weight loss medication for active duty service members.
And you're talking like phentermine, or you talking about Ozempic? Like, what
yeah.
what
So
talking
it's like
about?
it's a trial and error. So so basically soldiers have to meet certain, there's a whole TRICARE authorization paperwork that a provider, I say provider, a doctor.
Yes.
I am not a doctor.
That's right.
I am a dietitian. I have RD at the end of my name, not MD. Okay.
right.
So I cannot prescribe the medication. I just have to educate soldiers on nutrition education and then like a little bit about the medication and how it's going to affect your body and how it's going to affect weight loss. Because when soldiers hear, and I see it on Facebook groups, I'm in Facebook groups and I see it where but they're like, hey, how can I get Ozempic? And people are like,
oh yeah, here's the cheat code. And they get on Reddit and they're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to tell my provider this.
right. And so and they think if they just go to their PCM and say, hey, I want weight loss medication, it's going to work. So there's this whole TRICARE authorization paperwork. They got to check yes or no to. And if yes, proceed on. If no, stop. They can't be prescribed the medication. And there's depending on the medication, there's I don't know, anywhere between 7 or 10 different check boxes, right?
Yeah.
So I have not seen a soldier prescribed a GLP-1, which is Ozempic, Wegovy. Ozempic's actually for people with type 2 diabetes. Wegovy is approved by the FDA for weight loss, not just type 2 diabetes. So
isn't it semaglutide or semaglutide or something like that too?
yeah,
Okay.
there's different.
It's
I
different.
can't. So there's different medications, but every service member, if they do get approved to start weight loss medication, they'll start out on phentermine.
That's right.
So they'll start out on phentermine, the low dose, and then go up to the higher dose. One thing about being on the weight loss medication is you are on a non-deployable profile for 90 days.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So you're only prescribed up to 90 days worth. And during the time you are prescribed the medication, you are non-deployable.
What's crazy is that might mean an air crew member could be grounded.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would look like, but that sounds about right.
So
so now you're not a mission effective.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what if a commander has a whole platoon on weight loss medication?
Wow. Then we're not mission ready.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Our readiness. That's crazy.
So that's a huge thing with it. There is something in there that does state that is a service member have been working to lose weight through lifestyle modifications for 6 months.
So it's
least.
kind of like a last resort.
Yeah. So in our brigade policy is they have to see the dietitian for 6 months.
Okay.
And so that's not every brigade's policy. That's our brigade policy.
Okay.
Because that box does say, have they been trying to lose weight for 6 months? And our brigade providers kind of said okay, well, have they been working with a dietitian for 6 months?
Yeah. Have they done everything they possibly could to do it naturally?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and what the problem I see though, is I have people coming to me wanting the medication, but not making an effort.
Not making effort.
Yeah,
they want the
because
magic fix.
Yeah. And so that's the unfortunate part of it. And so, and then while they're on the medication, they have to come see me every 2 weeks. They have to do in-body scans. They have to see if they're actually losing weight. They have to continue nutrition education. And the problem with the weight loss medication is all the research there. When you stop it, you gain the weight back. Because all the medication does, without the nutrition education and lifestyle modifications, it just suppresses your appetite.
Yeah.
I mean, it does other things too,
see, that's all
but
phentermine does.
the bigger picture is it suppresses your appetite. It does other things like slow down digestion, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of other stuff, but that's the biggest picture.
Yeah.
And so if you're just, now not taking the medication and your appetite comes back, what are you going to do? You're going to eat, and then you're going to gain the weight back. And
Because
so
you didn't change your lifestyle.
yeah, so that's why the lifestyle modification portion is extremely important if you're going to try to use weight loss medication. And I'm not against weight loss medication. It's just, I think it's, you got to understand the risks of it too. Cause there's a
That's right.
lot of risks with the medications, you got the
Mhm.
benefit of weight loss, but there could be a million side effects that like, your body doesn't agree with. Like I said, I haven't had a soldier come to me, prescribed Wegovy or anything, but from what I've heard about the medication is that you have a lot of GI issues.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Would they be permanent or just while you're taking the
While you're
medication?
taking it. So what it
Okay.
does is it slows down digestion. That one really does slows down your digestion and then causes a lot of diarrhea. Could cause constipation, could cause
I mean, if
vomiting.
you're just gonna purge, and you're gonna lose weight, and then if you're not eating just by sheer numbers that we talked about, like less is going in, and it's like, man, you're gonna starvation is effective.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there's and then if a soldier doesn't do well on phentermine for whatever reason, they're not losing the weight, then they get bumped up. I think it's called Qsema. It's phentermine plus Topamax together. Topamax is actually a migraine medication.
It is, and it does have a benefit or side effect of losing weight.
It does. It suppresses your appetite significantly. Also has a terrible side effect of constipation or
Suicidal thoughts, probably,
or diarrhea and kidney stones.
kidney stones.
So you got like, well, man, do I really want to lose weight? And then there's another one on top of that.
A lot of people want to lose, like, oh, I want to lose weight.
Right. There's a few other medications they would have to try. Or somehow just medically not be able to be prescribed, right? Because there's some medical exemptions.
Yeah, that's right.
And if they can't be prescribed those like 4 other medications, then they would be prescribed Wegovy. But it's not. They have to try.
Can't go from 0 to Wegovy.
No, you can't. You got to try all these other medications first.
Yeah,
and then fail them.
Yeah,
or be medically like told you can't be on them for some serious medical reasons.
Wow.
And then if you have some serious medical reasons, then
why are you in the Army?
Let's look at that.
Yeah, let's
Because I did have one soldier in that situation, but they were getting med boarded out already for having cardiac issues.
Oh man!
So they couldn't be prescribed any of those medications.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They could only be prescribed Wegovy.
God, that's crazy.
And they didn't give him the Wegovy because he was getting med boarded anyway.
Yeah, a lot of those medications you mentioned, I think, don't they increase your heart rate? Like,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's like
that's an issue.
So So have soldiers coming in and out wanting the weight loss medication or wanting to try it. And then it's like, okay, well, when I sit them down and kind of explain to them how you're not getting prescribed Wegovy, they get really upset. And then they go to looking online.
I was about to say, that's not going to stop some people.
Yeah. So there's definitely weight loss clinics around Fort Liberty. There's stuff online that's trying to prescribe it. But the stuff that you got to be watching out for, stuff online, is it's not not the GLP-1s. It's not Wegovy. It's some other combination drug.
Yeah.
You have to look at it because there was such a shortage of Ozempic and Wegovy going on. Other companies came up with this like
some other
combination drug that isn't FDA approved.
That's right.
If you look at specific companies, you can easily Google it. They're not FDA approved, but they will sell it to you.
Yeah, and people will take that risk.
Yeah, and they charge upwards of $1,200 a month.
That's crazy. People do it.
Oh yeah. No, I know. So people are, it's all out there, how we get these weight loss medications. And, there's some benefit to it. Like I said, if you need that little boost, I have seen it. I have seen soldiers be prescribed the medication and to give them that boost to lose that weight.
Yeah. I mean, it is motivating to see the results so quickly. And you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Psychologically, the switch flips and you're like, okay, cool. Then the behavior changes, modifications, all of that goes into play. And then hopefully they can maintain that long term. But that's like your best case scenario for that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, best case scenario is you do it naturally. Like, you have all this support to get you there. You just have to commit.
I think a lot of people are impatient. That's the big thing. Like I've had a soldier come to me like,
well, some people are content being unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of respected this soldier. He got out, I think this past year, but he was like, man, he's just such a sweet guy. He's like, I can't wait till I get out so I can eat whatever I want and get fat as fat as I want. And I'm like, okay. The man liked to eat. He didn't want to be restricted anymore. And he was just like, I'm going to, he already had his job lined up. And I was like, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Like, good for you. It wouldn't be my lifestyle, but I can't knock it.
I've had soldiers try to eat their way out of the Army.
Ooh.
They wanted to get chaptered out. So they use ABCP as a,
wow.
I'm like that. I mean, there's some ways to go, but
yeah. That's
type
a pretty
2 diabetes,
extreme.
right?
That's extreme.
Eating their way out of the Army.
I mean, did they admit that, or was
yeah,
it just, okay.
Yeah, they admit it.
Because I've known some people that just don't want to admit it. That's what they're doing.
We've had them admit it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to get out. Then okay.
There's other ways to get out.
Like,
but just gaining a lot of weight and just to get out is kind of crazy.
That's wild. That's like you said, people are extreme sometimes.
Oh, Oh yeah.
But the patience that goes into like gaining weight to get out,
Oof.
the commitment.
And just, yeah, like I look at it like, not just from a body image
Yeah.
thing, but the comorbidities I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
like type 2 diabetes, high blood
Yeah.
pressure, cardiac issues. Some things are not reversible.
So how easy is it to just go see you?
Oh, super easy.
Yeah, tell
So at
us.
least for us, we have every H2F usually has their own scheduling system, like website
Mhm.
where, you can go to the link. We have QR codes around our brigade. You can scan it
Mhm.
and it takes you to our website. And then you can just click schedule appointment. You can pick nutrition and then they can pick me and then they see my timestamps for the week. I have
Awesome.
stuff the same week. So like that's a benefit of H2F is that access to care is much quicker than
Good.
if you were to go to like the clinics, right?
Okay.
Same thing for physical therapy and occupational therapy. You can get in to see them within a week or two.
Oh, okay. So you don't need a referral to go see you.
No.
Hell yeah. And then do you have any like walk-in clinics or anything like that you just host classes or anything?
So yeah, we've tried it in the past.
It's
It's
just
kind of hard with
yeah.
like unit schedules.
That
But like
first formation.
right. I always tell soldiers they can come in and just talk to me if they want to talk
That's
to me, because it's not just me. I have
Mhm.
another registered dietitian I work alongside. I have a health educator who is basically she's a dietitian technician registered. So she's like a step below a
Nice.
dietitian. She has her education as well, bachelor's in nutrition.
Okay.
And then I have a 68 Mike who's our nutrition care specialist on the enlisted portion that works
I didn't even
alongside.
know that was
Right? That's an MOS. That's an MOS.
cool.
So 68 Mike is a nutrition care
Goodness.
specialist.
That's
So
cool.
so there's a team of 4 of us. So one of us 4 can take care of you in acute needs. And then if you need to get a one-on-one more in-depth thing, it's like, cool, I could probably see you in the next day or 2.
That's incredible. Do you still okay, so I've never been into an H2F because they're still fairly new. Do you guys have tools like the wellness center has? You mentioned InBody. Do you guys have the VO2 max set up, or do you have tools like that in your clinic?
Yeah. So in my brigade, we have the in-body. But other brigades, so I'm not in a combat arms brigade.
Okay.
Some of the other like combat arm brigades do have more equipment and they do have the VO2 max.
VO2 max, and then you remember the little tent that goes over your face, your basal metabolic testing?
Yeah, we don't have that.
You don't have
Nah,
that? Okay,
no.
so I would have to go to like the wellness center or a different H2F. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And usually have to be seen within your own brigade. But I do get
Okay.
soldiers like that don't have an H2F that come to us.
That would make sense.
And
yeah.
so I'm fine with that because I'm like, I'm like, they're like, oh, I work at Corps. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
we
yeah.
are a brigade under Corps that isn't part of division and we're a medical brigade. So I'll see you,
The goodness of your heart is like, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
So like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make it happen for you. And that's kind of how I've been in very small units. We just don't have an H2F.
Yeah.
And so all I had was a wellness center, and they were like, hey, if you're just not getting seen, even if you're just in town, like we'll figure it out. We'll make sure you get seen. We'll make sure you get measured. And I do like the resources, but some people just don't know how to access your care.
Yeah.
So
I get soldiers all the time booking appointments with us because they find us when they Google like H2F for Fort Liberty, like we come up with the first ones. And so they just
Hell
make
yeah.
appointments with us. And
I mean, that's probably the best.
I'm like, as long as you're not part of another H2F that I know you have a dietitian at, I'm gonna make you go see your own dietitian. But
yeah.
otherwise I'm like, yeah, I'll see you.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, it's like fairly new. I didn't even know how it worked. So
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
still fairly new and every unit and every base has their own like ways about doing it because there
Yeah.
is no book on how to do this. And so we're all just still figuring it out.
Yeah, that is true. But do you think now that you work in H2F, do you think that is something the Army has done right? Like that we actually needed?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. And I wish more soldiers would take advantage of it. These younger soldiers, right?
We don't know it exists.
because right?
I'm a CW too, and I'm just like, what's an H2F? Like I know it because you've told me about it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was the new upgrade to the manual. Like
Yeah.
that's
Well, at least for us, one thing we do to get the word out is like when soldiers in process the brigade,
okay.
they spend a whole like few week program in processing with H2F in the morning. So they don't go to their unit formation, they go to H2F in the morning and they do something different like every day. So they have in briefs from all the different pillars. They do PT with the strength coaches. They even do an ACFT with our team just to do a diagnostic. Everyone gets on the InBody and does the InBody, like they have a whole in processing schedule that's a few weeks long. So that way they get a whole introduction to H2F and the staff.
That's incredible. And a baseline.
And they know how to reach back out to us.
Okay, thank God.
And
That
so
is cool.
Most units have that. Most units that have an H2F have an in-processing schedule like that to make
Okay,
sure they
cool.
capture all the soldiers and they know that resource is there for them. I just wish they would use it more,
Yeah.
because if I was a young soldier, like I'm like, oh my God, this would have been amazing,
Yeah, it really would have, especially like for people like us. Like we really love physical fitness, and we gravitated towards well, I did more strength and conditioning, you did more nutrition, but I'm like, man, even like the supplements that we end up taking, like we're both very fascinated with
Yeah.
that. And it's like, man, like if we only had these resources a lot sooner, like,
Or just even like, you won't have this when you leave.
yeah,
You know,
that's
like
true. You
try
won't
to
have access
find
to
a
that.
company out there that like, I mean, that would provide you a dietitian, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist,
points.
cognitive specialist,
Good point.
strength coaches. I mean, our coaches do one-on-one appointments. They do one-on-one consultations. They do
Yeah.
one-on-one training. Like,
You
know,
have to pay for
and they
an
don't have to
added
pay for
service.
anything. They don't have to pay for anything.
Outside of this, you have to pay for a coach. You have to pay for nutrition. You have to, if you have good insurance, you might get a little kickback on it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, they don't. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because now I'm like, oh shoot, if I do take advantage of this, I'm gonna fall in love with it. And then as soon as I get out, I'm like, oh my god, what do I do now?
I know, right?
I better have a high paying job to pay for a whole team of people,
Right? Because seriously, they got a whole team, and like we all help each other out. You know, if I see a
Yeah.
soldier who's like struggling with this, I'm like, hey, go see the coaches. This is how you make an appointment with them. Or hey, let me walk you down to occupational therapy. You know, our cognitive specialists will help you out in this realm.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you do that because some providers are like, oh, nope, I did what I needed to do. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, you graduated your program. But they don't consider the holistic approach.
Yeah, and
Whole person.
we really do. We have weekly meetings on how we can improve that, and we even give each other heads up, like
case
hey,
studies or anything? Or
oh
like,
yeah,
okay.
and like even like hey, you know,
How do I help this
private so
individual?
and so, you should be expecting to see private so and so pop up on
This is
your
what
schedule.
we're doing now, and
you know?
maybe you can help them with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially
God, that's awesome.
especially the ones that come to me that are injured, and I'm like, hey, have you gone to physical therapy? Because
Oh man,
they
I
like
wish-
to use
yeah.
that. They like to use that. Like, oh, I can't work out and help that part of my. I'm like, well, you see, I don't. I can look at their charts, and I'm like, I don't see any physical therapy notes in here. So like, you should go see them. You know, like let's go
Yeah.
down there. Like this is how you make an appointment. Also, our physical therapy team, they offer sick call 2 days a week.
Oh, okay,
So we have physical therapy sick call.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I mean, the benefit of that is that now you have more providers that can provide that type of schedule.
Yeah.
and a lot of bases just don't have that.
Yeah, and I think that's the
So-
biggest thing. You know, nutrition's one, but I think the physical therapy part is huge because I mean, getting into a physical therapy clinic, like they're always booked out, they're always
Yeah.
dealing with this, that, and the other. But like the access to care to get into a CR physical therapy rehab team, it's like you can get in, like I said, sick call that week to get evaluated.
Okay.
And they can, you know, check you out if you need a profile. They can give you a profile,
Oh,
those types
okay.
of things, right? I shouldn't have said that because now everyone's gonna go see them to get profiles.
Well,
but
yeah, but it's just another resource. It's like, hey, I just need help. I don't have to go to my primary care manager.
yeah, they don't have to go to their primary care manager for this bum
or
knee or
I don't
something.
have to like pretend that this injury is acute just to get seen. I'm just struggling with this injury or this illness, and it's like on the aviation side of the house, we have 2 levels to it. We have our primary care manager who may or may not be a flight surgeon. So anything that I do without my flight surgeon, they have to be notified. So it's like if I am on a profile, I need to actually go through my flight surgeon to verify that it's not a grounding condition of a profile. So it's like there's kind of more levels to like my type of job, but I already see that it's easier because it's like, okay, I don't need to refer to go to physical therapy, but I still need to talk to my flight surgeon.
yeah.
So there's some people that are still kind of limited because there's different like gates you have to hit because our job is just the nature of our job. So it's like, wait a second, there are other factors that we have to consider. But a lot of you're talking about the majority of people, which is great because you don't need a physical therapy or occupational therapy referral, and that is a huge barrier for some people.
Yeah, and like
And some people have the suck it up mentality because their leaders are like, no, you don't need to say anything. You need to just work through it. We need you at work. We need you at work. And they're just afraid to say something.
yeah,
So yeah, you're breaking down barriers now.
yeah, and they have those sick call hours, and they can order X-rays, they can order MRIs, they can do that stuff too.
Oh, good.
And like
That's
as a
good.
dietitian, I can order labs. So like if for some
Ooh,
reason I
okay.
suspect something wrong, like vitamin D deficiency,
Oh,
or
awesome.
I can even prescribe vitamin D supplements. You know, that's all I can prescribe. The
What's-
dietitian.
that's cool.
But I can look at
yeah.
I can look at labs if I suspect diabetes or high cholesterol, those types of things. I can run your labs to see like, okay, something
That's
else going
incredible.
on here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned vitamin D. That's so important for a lot of your body systems. Yeah, I didn't realize when I went to Louisiana, I was vitamin D deficient and I was prescribed vitamin D as a supplement. It's just like, wow, I didn't realize that like
Yeah.
I wasn't getting
A
enough
lot of
sunlight,
soldiers
guys.
are, man.
Yeah,
a lot
'cause
of
we're,
soldiers are.
we're in uniform a lot. We don't realize
Yeah.
it. So
Go get your
yeah.
vitamin D checked.
it affects a lot of your systems in
It
your
does.
body and overall health. So and your hormones. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's crazy. Oh man, we talked about some controversial topics today.
Yeah, we did. We talked all over the place.
I am so glad to get your perspective on so many different things. And I'm so glad to share your story with all of our listeners. And I hope that everyone enjoyed this episode because I've been dying to bring Laura on this show. And I hope to bring you back on very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have a lot to talk about.
I think we still got more. Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
we
have
could
to do another
and
episode.
We're just gonna have to do another part to it. And like I said, I'm so excited because this girl and I talk just about every day. We
Every
have for
day.
over a decade. And
It's crazy.
yeah, right. And it's like between our Snapchats and our voice memos, like, but let me know what you all think in the comments. And if you have any questions for Laura, I'll leave a good contact or a way to contact her if you're in the Fort Liberty area. So please go check her out, even just to say hi. And Sky Mommy out.